Hey everyone, thank you all for joining. We're very excited to welcome you to our first virtual NMPignite event, The Future of Performance. We have a really special show lined up for you today, but before we start, we have to just go through a few housekeeping rules. So today's session will be a total of 2 hours. The first part will be our brilliant speakers, which will be live streaming until around 4:30. And then we're going to provide you with another link where you can join us for the much anticipated entertainment, our virtual magician. We really want this first part to be as interactive as possible. So please leave your comments, questions, and emojis in the chat on the right-hand side. Following each speaker, we have about 5 minutes for each for question time. So please get in your questions before their presentation ends. And then for those who can't join for the whole session, although we would love you to, we are recording this. So please be reassured this will be able to be watched back over in your own time or as used as a recap. Perfect. So now on to the exciting bit. So I will be hosting tonight alongside Max. My name's Nisha and I work on the partnerships team at NMPi. I joined in 2016 and my role focuses on the continued development of our performance-based services, particularly through our referral partners, such as our affiliate networks. I know I've met quite a few of you before, so hello. And for those who I haven't met, it's lovely to meet you, and I hope we can meet in person at another one of our events. But I've been at NMPi for 4 years, which is crazy to say because time has completely flown. But a lot of exciting things have happened. We started off as a team of 4, and now we operate as a team of 11 across both the UK and US. I'm now going to introduce my co-host, Max. So hello, Max. Max is also celebrating a certain number of years at NMPi this week. So over to you, Max.
Thanks, Nish. Hi, everyone. So I'm Max Plasner. I'm the Director of Innovation at NMPi. As Nisha says, I've been working here for precisely 7 years and 1 day, and started out here as an analyst on the PPC team. So I've been able to sort of witness the growth and the journey that we've been on over the years. And before we hand over to the team and sort of talk through a lot of the new exciting stuff going on, I just want to give you a bit of an overview of that journey. And before we do that, I just wanted to say, similar to Nish, thank you so much for joining. This is by far and away the biggest ever digital event we've given a go. And looking at the people who've signed up and the people in the comments already, you know, a lot of you have worked with us over the years and been with us on that journey. And, you know, we just want to say that we do appreciate it, because we know that we are a bit of a strange company and sometimes can be a bit of an odd sell at times to clients and partners and bosses. And that's because, you know, we're one of the very few people out there trying to deliver a lot of these traditional paid media channels like search and display and social on this pure performance basis. And the reason we do that is because we really do strongly believe in the value of performance models and the benefit that it can drive for advertisers. So our goal really is to try and continue to push the boundaries of what's possible within that. And so in keeping with the theme of us being, you know, a slightly weird and odd company, we've got this event here for you today, you know, presented by me in my home in my shorts and no shoes, and this goofball here in a pilot's headset. And for some reason we have a magician, which I'm not sure why, but, you know, that should be good. So thank you again for joining. Great. And, you know, just onto our background. So we were established in 2004 as Net Media Planet. A lot of you will still know us by that name, but we have rebranded to NMPi. And we just did affiliate PPC at the time. And our tagline was the PPC people. And that's a tagline we've been trying to escape from in recent years, not because we don't believe we are the PPC people. You know, we can tell you firsthand we are the best at PPC as well, but that's not what we're here to talk about. You know, we wanted to focus on more than just PPC and be more of a partner to brands. But back then, you know, affiliate model was the way of doing things in PPC. We had a lot of competitors in the space, but over the years, we sort of found that all of our competitors really dropped off. It required a lot of adapting and changing to keep up with the model. Policy and tracking changes from the likes of Google, Facebook, the affiliate networks, GDPR, various hurdles that we've had to jump through over the years, which a lot of people just couldn't be fussed with. And the big part was incrementality questions. Back in those times, I think everyone was sort of taking advantage of some of the less experienced advertisers out there and just bidding on brand and charging a fortune and not really providing incremental value. So as people started to catch wind and grow a bit more experience in that space, the demands became higher, and a lot of advertisers balked at that idea. They didn't want to take on the risk of spending their own money driving sales for things that maybe didn't have a huge margin that they could bank on. It takes that confidence and belief in your abilities to be able to keep up and adapt. But we've always seen the value of performance. Being able to provide media services and technologies at a level where there is no minimum spend, no long-term commitments, and on this pure pay for results model is something that's obviously enormously beneficial to advertisers. Without that, you're facing these, expensive agency fees, blocking minimum spends and really long-term commitments that you need to make, which can really prevent your growth and your expansion in that space. So we wanted to make it more accessible. And brands also want, partner accountability. I can't count how many advertisers who've come to us complaining that their agency that works on a percentage of spend maybe hasn't been, incentivized to do anything other than, convince them to spend more. Or if you work on a fixed retainer, are they just doing the minimum amount to not get fired and retain the contract and the business? We try and work on this performance model because we want to align our goals with our clients. By spending our own money and only getting paid per sale and a fixed paid per sale, we're incentivized to drive as much volume as possible within that pre-agreed commission rate. So our goals become exactly aligned with yours, and we can drive growth together. So we decided to stick with this performance model and really adapt and try and develop it further. And it's been a busy few years of adapting. There've been a lot of things that have happened over my time and beyond. And we started out in 2004, I said, as in PPC. In 2010, overnight, Google brought in a regulation which nearly collapsed our business in a matter of days. We had to switch from third-party bridging pages to direct linking. It required us to scramble really to update and keep up with the changing Google regulations. And again, a lot of people dropped off. Fast forward to 2013, we saw the value that we could provide by leveraging our search knowledge and our search data to providing a display solution that no one else could really rival, presenting a joined up approach to both channels rather than keeping them in silo, which was definitely the case at the time back then. And then in 2015, we expanded to shopping. Google told us it was absolutely impossible to get affiliate tracking to work with Google Shopping, but we managed to find a hacky workaround. I think with June London was the first account that we did it. So that was a really exciting development for us. Not pictured here, October 2016, a certain Nisha Kanapathy joins the business. Nothing would ever be the same. 2018, we moved on to social. We've been doing social for several years, but getting it to work with Facebook's walled gardens and Instagram's walled gardens proved a real challenge. But in 2018, we managed to crack it and really push forward with our model for the performance channel, which Jack's going to run you through a bit later. And also that year, we developed our CSS, Buy, which we're really proud of. It's now gone on to be one of the biggest in Europe. And is ever growing with really great advertisers on there. So that's an increasingly big part of our business moving forward. And then onto sort of the new stuff, what we're all here for today. So I won't go too much into the details and I'll leave that for the team, but really excited to share you those developments this afternoon. And we're really glad we stuck it out with the performance model because, it really is now more important than ever. I used to talk about this just in the context of Brexit, but sadly, it seems 2020 has thrown a million other challenges for advertisers to deal with, which makes this even more relevant. It's a truly uncertain time for brands at the minute, facing the sharpest recession on record, according to the Bank of England. I think a 10% shrinkage they announced today. And what that has understandably led to is around 60% of advertisers cutting their budgets. But these brands don't want to do that. It's just been that they've been forced to because the risks are just too great. And this is really where the performance model can come in. By paying those partners on a fixed percentage of revenue means that transfer of risk goes from the advertiser to the partner. And this really is the beauty of the model and why it's so important right now. We are willing to and have the confidence in our abilities enough that we want to take on that risk for advertisers to keep them operational and keep driving new business and growing in the years to come. And beyond that, it's become our mission statement really to expand the horizons of the performance model, not sticking to what we know, but looking at other channels which are traditionally not necessarily media driving or revenue driving activities like creative or feeds explicitly. And how can we transfer them to be a part of our performance model and our performance proposition? So really excited to have the team talk through some of those today. A few of those listed here, but we're going to focus on a few, which are feeds, Amazon, creative, and social with the lovely Shalaka, Pete, Anna, and Jack. And I am excited to hand over to Shalaka to talk us through feeds. So welcome, Shalaka.
Thank you. We're just on Jack's deck at the moment. But hi, everyone. Yeah, I've seen through the comments that I already know a few of you. So hi to the rest of you. I'm Shalaka. I work on the CSS and partnerships team as a CSS partnerships manager. And over the last couple of years of working on CSS, I've really learned how much feeds make an impact on performance. And so that's what I'm talking about today. So first of all, why are feeds important? Free shopping, getting your feeds right, and the NMPi approach. So why are feeds important for online performance? So as I'm sure a lot of you know, your online marketing is underpinned by feeds, and your feed management solution is what really drives your performance, whether that's going to be good or poor. And what we've seen in the last few months is that online commerce has become a bit of a lifesaver for retailers, and that's only likely to continue. 42% of people have said they're going to be shopping more digitally in the future. So regardless of whether there's lockdowns or no lockdowns, people have seen how convenient it is to shop online, and they want to continue doing this. So what that's going to mean is that there's going to be more shoppers, there's going to be more brands that want to meet this demand. That's going to mean that there's more competition. And as an advertiser, what you want to make sure is that your online marketing is as airtight as possible. So as we've said, feeds underpin all of your online marketing channels. As a media agency, we've really seen how the impact of good quality or poor quality feeds can really have an effect on performance. And over the years, we've seen a number of different challenges, some of which I'll talk through in a bit more detail later, but things such as slow feed updates, stock level issues, competitor pricing. But something to bear in mind for the future that's on the near horizon is that change is coming. So Google have announced that they're going to start allowing brands to list their products for free within the shopping tab. So that means for merchants, you get free exposure across your products to more shoppers. And for consumers, that means more products to browse through within the shopping tab itself. And then this is kind of what that looks like. So there still will be a paid carousel right at the top of the shopping tab, which is quite small. But then all of the rest of the listings below that will be free and organic. So for an advertiser, the question here is how can I make sure that my products are being listed, and what do Google prioritize when they're making these listings? So I think we can look at what Google prioritize generally for shopping campaigns. So they look at usually the bid for the product, the quality of the feed, and the relevancy of the search term to the product. So when you take away the bid, because these listings are for free, you're going to be left with the quality of the feed and the relevancy of the product to the search term. And the one out of those two that you can control is the quality of the feed. So I think it's safe to say that those with the best feeds are going to have the best chance of being listed within this space. So what you're going to want to do is, as your budget is being saved because it won't be going into paid shopping listings, we'd recommend reinvesting that into a feed management solution so you can make sure you're giving yourself the best chance with the best possible feed to make sure you're getting in front of these shoppers' eyes. So this is something that has been launched in the US so far, but will be rolled out to the rest of the world in the coming future. And this is how to get your feed right. So we've got the NMPi feed pyramid, and I'll start at the bottom with laying the foundations. So there's three kind of most important areas here. So first of all, consistency. You want to make sure that your feed is being updated on a live basis, ideally, preferably through API integration. The quality of the feed, you want it to have a full set of attributes and being continuously optimized according to various channels. And governance. So you want your feed to be regularly audited for disapprovals and automated alerts to be set up. What you don't want is to be sending out a feed which has issues to all of your different online marketing channels, only to realize that 40% of the products have been disapproved and your performance has nosedived. What you want to be doing is setting up alerts at the feed level stage so that if X number of products have some sort of issue, it will instead freeze the feed so that it's not getting sent out to your partners. Your partners are continuing running their campaigns according to the feed they already have, giving you the time to go back into your feed, look at what the issues are, resolve them, and then continue exporting. So then we can look at leveraging your own data and then sharing that with your other channels. So what we tend to see is that a feed will be sent out to various different online channels, a lot of which are run by different agencies. And you'll find that each of these channels has their own automations, their own processes, their own setup. And what will often happen is that standard tests are repeated across all of these channels. So what you want to be doing is having all of these automations done at a feed level. So all of your performance data, your margins, stock levels, cancellation rates, you want to automate this at a feed level and then export to all of your different channels. Because in this case, all of your channels are working off a centralized source of truth. And not only that, but you're saving budget and you're saving time, because instead of all of these channels running these standardized tests, it's all happening in one place right at the beginning of the process. And this is what it looks like kind of in real life. So you've got your various products within your product set, and they're all ranked by several different factors. And you've got some products that perform better than others. And the products that are the top sellers, the ones that you're going to make more margin on, are the ones that you want to be pushing out to your partners. So what you can do here is adding custom labels into your feeds so that when it's being sent out to your various channels, they know which products you want to be pushing. And what that results in is a cohesive messaging across all of your different advertising platforms. So your shopping ads, your display creatives, your social carousels. And this is giving you the best chance to push your best products forward and hopefully encourage conversions from your customers. And all of this performance data can then be used to inform wider strategic decisions. So something we tend to see as an agency is that you'll have products that perform really well, but they tend to perform really well across a few sizes rather than all of them. So in this example, we've got the floral halter neck bikini in a size 12, which is super popular in this example, makes up 80% of sales for that particular type of bikini. So what tends to happen is when the size 12 sells out because it's super popular, everyone wants it, you end up pushing the other sizes. But because it makes up 80% of the sales, your conversion rate is going to drop by 500%. So actually, when you're looking at that, once the size 12 runs out, you probably want to pause across that entire item group. And then you look a bit deeper and you realize that that particular bikini makes up 60% of sales in the bikini subcategory level and 15% of sales across the entire beachwear category level. So you can look a bit deeper and actually think about not only pausing that whole item group, but potentially pausing the bikini level group as well, because your performance is going to be much lower if your prized product is out of stock. So it's by making these decisions at a feed level that you then send out to your channels that your budget can be reallocated into areas that are going to be able to drive better performance for you. And so once you've leveraged all your kind of own data, you can then look at using third-party tools and APIs. So there's a variety of APIs that you can connect to depending on the type of vertical you are, from fantasy football APIs to seasonality to Twitter APIs and social triggers. But one that we've been using quite a lot recently is a price comparison tool where we're able to dynamically monitor the shopping landscape across Google and Amazon. So what we're able to do here is for a retailer, analyze which products overlap with their competitors, as you can see in the graph on the right. So here you've got various categories that overlap with the competitor, and we can also analyze that price data. So we can see that our retailer A, has cheaper products than the competitor. So what you'd kind of want to be doing here is pushing these cheaper products, but then you also want to be looking at the performance data as well, because if these products are cheaper and they're performing better, that's definitely something that you want to be pushing across all your marketing channels. But if your products are cheaper and they're not actually performing very well, maybe retailer A should think about just increasing their prices, because on the sales that they are getting, they might as well make a bit more margin out of this. So it's using this kind of data at a feed level that allows you to also look at competitor landscape and make wider strategic decisions that's going to help drive performance. And that's kind of what it's all about at NMPi. As Max and Nisha said, we're a performance-based agency. That's where our heritage is. And we've been running paid media campaigns for years. So we know what it's like to be tied to a client's feeds. And what we knew we wanted to do after some time was have some influence over the feed so that we're able to deliver the best possible results for our clients. I think one of the feed teams said earlier, we've been held hostage to bad feeds for too long, and it's kind of true. So that's why we wanted to launch our feed management solution, which we've done in the last, towards the end of last year. And this was helped by our CSS proposition, through which we manage feeds for hundreds of different retailers. We're managing over 1 billion product SKUs. And it's through this that we've been able to build kind of a test bed that allows us to work out best practices, best technology, that's going to be able to allow feed optimizations that help drive growth for the client. Because at the end of the day, we are a performance marketing agency, and any kind of feed management or feed optimizations we do are always going to have our client's #1 goal at the heart of them, and that is performance. So to kind of sum up what I've been talking about, I was thinking about what would be the best key takeaway from this talk. And I genuinely think it's just getting the basics right. You want to be prepared for when free shopping is going to be opening up, but you want to make sure that you're not missing out on any revenue because of a feed issue that's quite easily resolvable. And you want those strong foundations in place before you start pulling in first-party and third-party data. So getting the basics right is where we'd recommend starting. In terms of actually identifying which areas of your feeds you could be working on, we're actually able to help with that. So we're offering free feed audits. So if you would like a free feed audit, please get in touch. Thank you. Any questions?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Shalaka. That was so interesting. Who knew feeds played such a vital role? I have a quick question for you, actually. So you mentioned free shopping. When do you think that will hit the UK?
So it's been launched in the US as of now, and Google have said they're going to be rolling it out to the rest of the world. We believe towards later this year, but in terms of the UK and EU, we can assume that that might be later on in the process in comparison to the rest of the world, because the complications that having the CSS program available in the UK and EU might pose. So it's a bit of a guess, but we're reckoning probably later this year to early next. We'll have to keep an eye out.
Oh, amazing. And how much has free shopping impacted shopping campaigns, do you think?
Yeah, so we've been monitoring this within the US across some of our clients. And this can vary quite a lot between verticals. So what we've seen is that for some clients, it will be 6% of their overall shopping traffic will be coming from free shopping, and others, it can be up to 50%. So if you kind of take into account 6 to 50%, that's probably kind of the range. But I think what we'll most likely do as it starts to hit EU countries, the UK, we'll probably have some more information that we'll be able to share around that time so brands can get prepared.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Shalaka. That was really, really insightful. We're going to move straight on to our next presentation, which proves a gift card isn't the only exciting Amazon offering to come from today. So over to you, Peter Munton.
Thanks, Nisha. Nice to meet everyone. As Nisha mentioned, my name is Peter. I've been at NMPi for almost 4 years now. And I started as a PPC analyst, but in the last year or two, I've been delving into the world of Amazon, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. So what will I be covering? Firstly, I'll give a brief introduction into what is Amazon advertising. I know it's quite a new subject and not everyone knows that much about it. But then I'll be talking about how it links in with the future of performance marketing. And then finally, how you can enhance your Amazon strategy. So what is Amazon advertising? So Amazon advertising is essentially Amazon's answer to Google's paid search. It's a very, very similar advertising solution. Firstly, you bid on keywords, much like Google's paid search. It all works on a pay-per-click basis. So you're only paying when a user clicks through your ad through to the Amazon product detail page. And it's a little bit more like shopping in the fact that all of the ads have a product image and a price. And so I kind of think of it as a mix between paid search and Google Shopping. And actually on the Amazon search results page, this is what those ads look like. So you can see here the ones highlighted, labeled with a sponsored badge. But aside from that, there's not really any difference to the organic ads within the results. And mainly they'll rank towards the top of the page. You also see other ads throughout the rest of the first page and onwards. So hopefully that's given you a good idea of what I'm actually going to be talking about, because often it can get a bit confusing. But why am I actually talking about this? How does this link in to the future of performance marketing? So I think the first question we need to ask really is, why are brands advertising on Amazon? It's an e-commerce platform. Users are there to buy, right? I mean, it shows a really strong performance in ROI. It's a really, really great channel if you know lower funnel. The size of the audience available on Amazon. There are over 300 million active users on Amazon worldwide. That's just a whole new audience to tap into that you can't always find elsewhere on the web. And lastly, the retailer's target audience is active on Amazon. I'm sure we've all shopped on Amazon. You can literally buy anything there these days. Everyone's going there for any sort of shopping. And actually, when we look at the advertising, and this graph here shows the share of product listing views driven by sponsored ads, and we can see that share is increasing month on month. And the most recent data shows this level to be around just over 11%. So over 1/10 of all product views on Amazon are driven from a sponsored ad. And this shows not only the user willingness to click on paid ads, but also the increase in spend from the advertiser side. And then what about when we actually look at the numbers? This chart here is a prediction of Amazon, their advertising revenue and year-on-year growth from eMarketer from October 2019. And we can see that they're predicting, around a 30% growth each year. But obviously, October 2019 was a very long time ago. A lot has happened since then. So what can we actually look at the most recent data? So 2019 as a whole, Amazon advertising saw a 39% growth year on year. So beating that prediction from eMarketer. And you might think coming into 2020, that growth is going to slow down as predicted. But actually looking at Q1 in 2020, there's a growth of 44% year on year. So what does this mean for Q4 this year, which is we're also interested about now? And using the most modest predictions, $6.4 billion is expected for Q4 in advertising revenue from Amazon ads alone. And this is likely to be kind of the bottom. It's going to exceed this by far. But how does this tie into performance marketing? Here we're asking, Amazon advertising has got to be one of the most performance-focused advertising solutions out there. The user is on Amazon to buy. It's an e-commerce platform. In most cases, there's only one click between viewing a product and purchasing it. And just looking at some more of the data, 36% of pounds spent by UK customers online are on Amazon. And this is even higher for the US at 52%. This just shows the magnitude of money that's flowing through Amazon and the potential of the audience that is shopping on Amazon. And then 92% of shoppers who start their product journey on Amazon make their final product purchase on Amazon. And this means that, it's more or less a closed customer journey. You're not darting around to other websites. It's entirely within that one ecosystem. And 75% start their shopping journey using the search box, with 1/3 clicking through the first row of products. And this means that, that search element to Amazon is so important. And that's where NMPi comes in. as experts in search for so many years, we bring the knowledge and expertise from that optimization and campaign structure side point to really boost the performance of your Amazon PPC campaigns. So probably what you're all here for, how to enhance your Amazon strategy. So I'm going to be talking through a few tips, mainly orientated towards your Q4 strategy. So getting Q4 ready, when should I start my Q4 marketing? You've got this set budget. When should you start spending? And just looking at some of the previous year's data, we can see that 30% of users on Amazon plan to make Christmas gift purchases in November. But still 50% of consumers are undecided about their Christmas gifts after Black Friday. So actually the majority of gift sales are seen in early December. And then looking at the search impressions on Amazon ads, it's actually 2.2 times higher pre and post Black Friday compared to the October average. So what does this mean? What does this mean? It means you start showcasing your brand before Black Friday, long before Black Friday, and keep the momentum going all the way until the end of the year. At NMPi, we have an always-on approach. We're always running campaigns, and this means we're always able to capitalize on any opportunity that arises. What actual products should I focus my strategy on? What products should I be spending on? And again, looking at previous year's data, sales of promoted ASINs are 2.9 times higher during the Christmas season, and that's compared to an average October, for example. Black Friday itself sees a 129% increase in traffic and a 250% increase in sales, again compared to the October average. So it's a lot of potential there for your promoted ASINs. But actually, for your non-promoted products as well, there's 110% increases in the sales for these. And this is something called the brand halo effect, where through promoting some of your products, you'll actually get a benefit to your non-promoted products. And that's because customers see your brand and start exploring it on Amazon and find other products that they want to purchase. So you want to focus your product strategy on high potential products, those being new product ranges that you really want to push, or high margin products to make the real profit from, as well as deals and top performing products that always do well. So how can I compete effectively over Q4? From the bidding point of view, you want to test your bid strategies in October for at least 2 to 3 weeks to define what works and what doesn't. You also want to understand your customers and tailor your keywords for Black Friday and Christmas terms. Make sure you're not losing out on those seasonal search terms. You also want to increase your bids to promote your products and allow for at least a 200% increase in budget over the Black Friday weekend. At NMPi, we usually have really high budgets to make sure that we don't miss out on that potential, and we always optimize our bids effectively. And one of the ways that we actually do that, we have an in-house technology which monitors the competitor landscape on the Amazon search results pages and gives us all sorts of data that we can use to optimize our campaigns and enhance our Amazon performance. And just a bit into how this works, we take the top keywords and we crawl the Amazon search results pages for these keywords, and we get all sorts of data on your products, on your competitor products, in terms of where they rank, the price, the number of reviews, etc. So there's loads and loads of data which we can crunch together and get all sorts of useful insights out of. And I think later we're going to be talking about how we're offering free scrapes for any of those that wish. So what are the key takeaways from today's presentation? Amazon advertising is big and it's only going to get bigger, so make sure you get on there early. Through the capabilities of Amazon ads, we can drive performance and business growth. It's a really, really valuable channel if you're on Amazon. And it's a product and profit performance mindset, which is the perfect strategy to enhance your Amazon performance in line with the Amazon business ethos. And if this has interested you today, we're actually running a series of personalized Amazon workshops. The first one being on the 8th of September in the afternoon UK time, where we will audit your current Amazon account and give you feedback and take you through how to optimize your campaigns and supercharge their efficiency. So if that's of interest to you and you want to get involved, feel free to reach out to me or anyone else on the NMPi team, my email is peter@nmpidigital.com. Thank you for your time, and I believe we have some time for some questions.
Brilliant. Thanks, Pete. Really appreciate that. First question for me, and I think on behalf of all our affiliate network partners on the chat, can you walk us through how this might work for them when they're more concerned with tracking sales on the actual retailer website?
Sure. So this is one of the main limitations of Amazon ads and the main performance model that we've talked about so far. Amazon is its own ecosystem. Everything is taking place on Amazon.com. The purchase is through Amazon.com. So from an affiliate performance marketing point of view, it is practically impossible to actually track on the Amazon website. However, all those sales that we're seeing through Amazon, we can download these and feed them into any sort of network to kind of bring a holistic dashboard to the overall activity. And this hasn't held us back at all when working with our clients. We've got clients where working on these models and flexible in terms of how it works commercially, but we're always in a performance mindset and always looking to achieve the best possible results.
Excellent. Thanks, Pete. And you touched on the competitor monitoring tool that I know is a recent development for you and is my favorite thing to pester and bother you about. But can you just give us a bit more information about that and what it's really capable of and the limitations of Amazon which caused you to develop it?
Yeah, sure. So I guess on the limitations of the Amazon ads platform, it's really, if you're around Google paid search 10 odd years ago, it's probably more similar to that in the way that the platform is relatively basic. And one of the main drawbacks is that there are no competitive metrics. So if you're working on Google paid search, for example, you have a search impression share just to show you, what share of voice you're having on your search keywords, whether that's 50%, 90%, 100%, whatever. But Amazon, you don't have that. You've not even got an average position metric. So you don't actually know where you're ranking on that search results page, which means you could be ranking halfway down the page and not know it. And not know it, an increase in your bid could drive a lot better results. It could also mean that you don't know you're at the top and just spending a crazy amount. So this has led us to develop this kind of scraping tool where we scrape the keywords that we're bidding on the Amazon search results page, and we pull the rank of our product ads to see where they're actually ranking, whether it be at the top of the page, position 1, position 2, or like position 56. And we pull that data into our dashboards, and we're constantly scraping those pages. So we actually get a view of how our products are appearing across those keywords throughout time. So that kind of gives us a similar metric to search impression share. And then we can use that to push up our bids to increase our impression share or bring them back down if we think there's a efficiency saving there. And the advantages of this scraping tool don't stop just there. We've got those metrics for our optimization, but there's all sorts of data that we pull from that scrape. As I mentioned, you can get stuff like the competitors that are appearing alongside you, the price of all the items on page, the customer reviews, number of views. So you can get a real sense of what the landscape looks like on that keyword, and use that to influence some of your strategy in terms of what products are working well, whether you can get a cheaper product in on that keyword that will work a lot better. And it doesn't stop just there. We can actually scrape the product detail pages as well. And this is particularly useful if you're a seller on Amazon and you're not running your own brand and you're competing against other sellers for these products. We can show you, who's currently in the buy box, what other sellers are appearing for that product and what prices they're showing, and that will help sellers identify what areas in those products they need to improve to reach the buy box.
Okay, brilliant. So it really allows you to kind of look more holistically at both paid Amazon as well as organic Amazon at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon is one of those channels where paid and organic are so interlinked. As Shalak was mentioning with the feeds, there's so much that depends on the quality of your product feeds, and that's true in Amazon as well. You can't sell effectively on Amazon with a bad product feed. You need a good product feed, good product detail pages with descriptive titles, good images, plenty of bullet points to describe what the product actually is, as well as getting in those product reviews and a competitive price.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, that sounds great, Pete, and I look forward to hearing the development of it. Excellent. And as Pete mentioned, similar to the feed audit, the Amazon analysis is available free of charge for anyone who wants to look at either their brand or any of their partners or clients. We're willing to go out there and do that analysis for anyone. So brilliant. Thank you very much, Pete. Appreciate that. We're now going to move on to our next speaker, the lovely Anna Jorish, to talk us through everything creative. So welcome, Anna.
Thanks, Max. So as Max says, I'm going to start off by talking about creative, but actually maybe take a slightly different tack for a couple of minutes, so bear with me. But I want to start by introducing myself, not so much to give you all my bio, but really to highlight my job title, which is Head of Performance Display. And the reason I want to raise that is because I think it often leads to a lot of questions, which is that, is that really a thing? Is display really a performance channel? And you can see where this question comes from, right? I think of all the digital channels, it's probably the most associated with branding activity. And anyone who's worked in a display or with display is very familiar with the constant arguments that we have about view-through tracking, about attribution, about whether it's actually incremental or not. And to be honest, without wanting to talk myself out of a job here, I kind of agree that no, it's not really a performance channel. And we'll get on to why I say that. But I think there is a good point. There is really much more like offline brand-led advertising than it is a lot of our typical performance channels. It's not designed to get an instant reaction just because you're reaching people where they're not showing any intent. And it's a bit like sort of expecting someone to see a display banner, click straight through to the store, make their purchase when maybe they're in the middle of reading the news. It's a bit like expecting someone driving up Old Street to see this banner, drive all the way around the roundabout, go all the way straight to the shop to buy it. And that's just simply not realistic. To be honest, they're more likely to, I think, go home and mow the lawn having seen that ad. And this kind of over-consideration of sort of direct response can actually lead to quite a lot of short-termism in terms of optimization of display campaigns and bad results as a result. It's sort of the equivalent of taking this ad and as a result of optimization going, well, I know where it will work really well. It will work really well right outside of the shop because, look, everyone sees the ads and then they go into the shop and buy. And that's very much what optimizing to clicks is to display. So I very much believe that this is the misunderstanding that people have about display activity. People don't click on display ads. That's not a behavior we're likely to change anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that they don't contribute to performance because, to be honest, performance isn't really about getting clicks either. It's not to say that click-based measurement doesn't have its place. There's plenty of faults with last click attribution, but there's a reason why it's lasted so long and why so many people still use it. But the click itself isn't really the be-all and the end-all. The click isn't equivalent to a sale. And in display in particular, optimizing to click simply doesn't work. There's a lot of downsides to doing it. Firstly, it leads to a lot of spam. You get off-puttingly high frequencies. And you get really quite poor media choices. So that might be things like optimizing towards sites with too much ad space on them, which are really quite a poor experience. Going after cheap inventory just because you really need the high impression volumes to get any sort of sensible degree of click volumes. Or maybe looking at sites where people are already ready to be distracted. And to be honest, they're not generally good reflections on your brand either. And then you have the clickbait. I think at its worst, we've all seen ads that actively try and trick you into clicking on them, which is certainly not a good experience to have. But even when it's done responsibly, it means prioritizing short-term messaging. It means being distracting and disruptive because if you're optimizing to a click-through rate, that's what you're optimizing to. And it also means you end up targeting the wrong audience. Only a tiny proportion of your audience realistically click on the ads, and they're not necessarily the ones who are going to actually add the monetary value to your business. And all of this adds up to really quite a poor brand experience. And a poor brand experience is never going to get you strong performance. For everyone who clicks on your ads, how many saw it and were actually put off by it and was the sale lost? And that's all very well, you might say, but of course, we are performance marketers here, and performance does still have to prove value. So how do you actually make display a successful performance channel? And this is where you could go off into a whole other talk about the value of view-through, data-driven attribution, incrementality testing. But actually, this is where I finally bring it back to creative, because actually I think creative is a key part of the solution to this problem. So how does it do that? Obviously, creative that looks nice, that's attractive, will always improve performance. But really, it's actually about shifting your focus to being creative first in your strategy, because after all, I think it's the message that drives the actions. It's not the media at the end of the day. So if you shift your optimization approach, in that direction, you get various benefits. Firstly, you shift away from clicks and towards engagement. And what engagement means will depend on the type of campaign. We could be talking sort of interaction with ads, or we could be talking something as theoretically simple as optimizing to time in view. But if you have the right creative, then you'll see that optimizing these metrics really does impact on performance, because you're driving that direct engagement with your brand and with your message. It also helps to validate and support your media buying. I'm a media buyer at heart still, and I know how tempting it is to claim all the credit for the sales you're driving just because of a smart audience segmentation strategy. But realistically, if you don't have the right creative for those audience segments, then what's the point in doing it? And smart creative really unlocks the value of and power of smart media buying. And finally, you get an opportunity to demonstrate your broader value to the business and to the marketing strategy. Digital creative is a really good testing ground to learn what works, and including what works, for instance, offline. But also by tracking engagements, you get a lot of audience insight, and actually a lot of audiences that you can then go on and target elsewhere as well. So if all of this is possible with the right creative, what is the key to getting that right creative and doing it correctly? And I would say it's a simple principle here, which is if you want something from your customer, you have to offer them something in return. And I think this is actually something we quite easily forget, but it's actually key to a lot of performance channels. Search, for example, it's all about providing responses to customer queries. And if we're looking sort of in affiliate world, this is something a lot of publishers do. Voucher codes, for instance, provide offers for customers who are looking for discounts. Bloggers sort of add an extension to their content by linking through to the sources for those who have engaged and want to buy what they're talking about. And of course, for the majority of people here, we're going to be talking about driving revenue. That is performance for most of us here. So, if we're not reaching people when they've actively expressed interest, when they've asked any kind of question, when there's no intent, how do we make sure that we are giving them something that they want? Well, first, we can look at ways we can use creative to make the purchase easier, more frictionless, more attractive to them. And then secondly, if we're not really at a stage to sell directly, we want to look at how we nudge them down the funnel and how we can measure that movement down the funnel. So there's a few sort of potential strategies here that I want to talk you through that can help with this, and I'll give an example of each. The first is to look at how you include offers and incentives. So providing an actual tangible benefit in exchange for that customer's attention or interaction. Secondly is looking at how you can simplify the path to purchase. So how do you make it easier or more attractive to do it here and now rather than waiting until you've forgotten? How do you build in data and relevance? And this is very important to make sure that you're not being stalky, and that that there is a real difference, I think, between just showing someone what you think they've just looked at, to actually being truly relevant. And finally, how does measuring engagement help to improve that user experience as well? So in terms of offers and incentives, this is an example that we did for Copshy. A lot of brands do include offer codes in their banners, and it very rarely works. A lot of people won't even pay attention to the contents of the banner in a lot of detail, and those who do will assume it's on site, and they'll click through and they won't actually make a note of it. So this is looking at how we can use that as an incentive for their engagement, and then actually make it worth their while. It adds an element of exclusivity. The customer feels that they've got something that maybe others don't. And it makes it easier for them. They can copy it directly from here through to site. So it has that element of adding ease and value as well. And in terms of results, we saw really great results from this. I think sales were up 34%, revenue up over 150%. So it was a really positive result. If you want to look at simplifying the path to purchase, a good example here is what we built for NCP. So this is just taking a bit of functionality from site, the ability to search for particular bookings and bring it through into the creative. Again, this is making their life easier. They don't have to wait and remember to go back to site. They can literally engage with it there and then. And it's not a hard sales message. It's something that is trying to be useful to them. And because it takes you through to a customized landing page, you get a much higher conversion rate because they're already halfway through the process by the time they get to your site. In terms of results here, it's actually really interesting because we saw a significantly lower click-through rate. So we were clearly knocking out a lot of those accidental clicks, but actually the conversion rate of those who did come to site was significantly higher, even just on a pure view-through basis. The conversion rate was so much higher and the ROI was so much higher, which again shows the value of trying to engage with customers in a useful way rather than in a purely salesy way. And then in terms of data, this is an example of something that we built for Transavia, where there's a lot of data available to really tailor what we're doing to the user without it needing to be about guessing at what the user really has been thinking the hour before they see the creative. So we looked at incorporating things like the flight data to make sure we were showing only flights that were currently available. And we looked at weather data. So this was a ski season promotion. So we were looking at targeting ski resorts where we knew there was good snow, where people would actually want to go, and actually providing that information to them in the banner. So this is a highly relevant experience, highly data led, but it doesn't have that element of creepiness. And again, really strong results on that. We saw a 45% increase in bookings and at a 65% lower CPA. And then finally, if we're looking at measuring engagement, this is something that's really useful when you're kind of in sort of upper funnel campaigns where you're still very performance led, you're still trying to drive that sale, but realistically, this is someone who hasn't come across your brand before. How do you get them to engage? And this is where you can maybe, by taking the sort of focus away from sales directly, you can actually get better results. So this is an example again of something that we built for classic football shirts. And we knew it was highly relevant to the brand. This was effectively content we took from their blog. The sort of people who shop there are the sort of people who will engage in this banner. So immediately, once someone engages, you've got that audience of people are highly targeted customers. It gives them an incentive to click through from site. They get an offer if they do completely successfully complete the challenge. And hopefully it's something fun that really engages them with the brand and demonstrates that alignment so that they do come back when they want to buy that product. So if I had to sort of sum up into a couple of takeaways from the creative point of view, I'd pick two principles that I think everyone should follow, but they're particularly at the heart of our own approach to creative. The first one is, I know, quite a cliche, but it's to make sure you're breaking down silos. And that means, firstly, it means across channels. I focus on display predominantly here. There's also a huge opportunity with creative across social, across affiliate, across search even, when it comes to linking it up with your ad copy. So looking at how you optimize for each channel individually, but also how you really unify your approach across all of them. But it's also about breaking down that silo between your media teams and your creative teams, making sure the strategies are fully linked. And the second is not just to incorporate data, but to build for data. So that's not just thinking about what data you can pull into your creative to tailor the content, but also how do you get data out of your creative? How do you make it really useful? How do you show the value that it is adding to your campaigns? And I think both of these, very much tie in with how we approach it. We have a joint approach to our creative and our media. We sit in the same team, in the same room, in the same, right in the same meetings. And data integration is really at the heart of what we do, taking the data that we're using for our creative, using it to automate our media buying and vice versa. So that is me. Thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Anna. That was really useful. So much important information when it comes to creatives. I actually have a few questions for you. What does an advertiser need to get started?
It's a good question, because I think a lot of people, when they see smart creative, I think they think it's something that's quite unachievable, especially for smaller advertisers, maybe smaller budgets. You don't have a lot of in-house development capability. But actually, you don't have to jump in straight at the deep end. some of what we're talking about here can be as simple as, as working with your static images, but just having a few variations and making sure you're really thinking about what's going into it. And there's a lot of platforms out there that help you do this as well. A lot of which are kind of quite self-serve, that are always worth investigating as well. But I think the main thing is not to be scared by sort of the really advanced applications you see, but just think, well, what's the first step on the journey, and how do I make that first step with the resource that I do have?
Perfect. And I think one more question has come through. So how can you sort of run these campaigns when advertisers have agencies or in-house teams, especially different sort of teams looking after media and looking after creative?
I mean, the easy answer is come work with us, because we don't do that. But I realise that's not necessarily a quick solution. It's about getting everyone in the same room fundamentally. I think a lot of media buyers have that frustration themselves. They know what it is to be expected to produce results from a campaign where they haven't got the good creative. They want to have that engagement. And creative teams, likewise, they want to know whether the ideas they're coming up with are any good. So start sharing that data. Again, we don't need to be talking about complex technical integrations necessarily straight off the bat, but just get everyone in a room, make sure you're working a strategy together, and that everyone knows what the end goal for that campaign is the best place to start.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Anna. We're now moving on to our final presentation. Last but certainly not least, we have Jack Carr. So Jack has been working to discover the latest trends in social advertising and is always on the cusp of the latest social updates. So over to you, Jack.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nisha. So I'm Jack. I'm here to talk to you about paid social. Similarly to Pete, I actually started out doing search here at NMPi just about over 4.5 years ago, and then started focusing on social about three years ago, and have been focusing on building out it as a true performance channel for us and fitting it in with our wider proposition. So I'm going to be talking through today, firstly, why social is important in general. Secondly, why we view it as a performance channel and why it should be viewed as a performance channel. Thirdly, I want to look at some tips to raise your social strategy as we head into Q4. Finally, I want to run through a couple of things that we do and how we look at social and some of our cooler strategic points, or at least we think they're cool. I hope you will too. Cool. So why is social important? Firstly, your customers are there, both new and existing. 3.96 billion active monthly users across all of the various social networks. It's over half of the total world population, and it's around 85% of internet users. Of those, 27% of internet users say they find new products and brands through paid social ads, with the average Facebook user having clicked 12 ads in the last 30 days. So there's lots of people there, and they like engaging with ads, and they're there to be talked to in a good way. Not only this, it's also growing. We've seen a 10.5% annual growth in the last year, and that's even before the massive growth seen recently due to the lockdowns. Permanent new habits have been formed during this lockdown. 50% of US adults are using social media more since the pandemic began, according to eMarketer. And about half that group are increasing their usage by 1 to 3 hours a day. So there are already a lot of people using it. There's now a lot more, and those who are using it a lot more as well. So the opportunity to connect with people is obviously massive. And whilst we are shifting away from lockdown in some areas, there is I hate to use the phrase, but new normal, which does mean people will still probably be more active on social media as we go forwards. And new habits are notoriously sticky. So we can expect to see some lasting user growth from this. Secondly, we've gone through how many users are there. In addition to that, your competitors are there, those you're aware of and those you're not, with advertising to both your existing users and those who could potentially be loyal customers. I advise you after this to go see for yourself. We'll send through the link to this afterwards, but have a look at ads library, and you can just see what all of your competitors are doing, what ads they're running, what type of ads they're running, where they're targeting. Really useful to get a bit of insight into what they're doing. So you can slice and splice these billions of users using vast amounts of audience data that Facebook can give to you. I'm not going to run through these too much in general, but I'm going to focus in on one profile in particular. So this is my profile. I'm partly using this as a bit of self-promotion. So you can see I've got a very cool cover photo. I'm hoping to potentially gain some new Facebook friends out of this as well. What Facebook can gain from my profile is information on my interests, my behaviors, my demographics. I can then link that in with my wider web activity. And then it can also tie that into your own first-party data as well, whether that's things that people are doing on your site or link it into your CRM list, emails, etc., to build that sort of wider user profile. One thing I do want to touch upon before we move on from audiences is do take these with a pinch of salt. So I'll also share the link to this because it's quite interesting, but you can look in at what you're doing, looking at what Facebook thinks about you as an audience, and what categories you fit into. So a few of these I'm completely on board with. Health and wellness, very important to me. Dogs, love them. Nature, great. Horseback riding horses, I think I've been on a horse once. I've always found them quite intimidating. So probably not going to be the best for me. I think that's probably linked to is my girlfriend sending me a lot of videos of horses and horseback riding, which on top of that, if you then look at my relationship status and on the right, coming in as single, probably wouldn't make her too happy. Ultimately, what this shows is that Facebook is going to be fallible with these audiences, both on those it gleans from your wider internet activity and your activity on Facebook, and also those that you volunteer yourself to Facebook, because those are valuable too. I have no obligation to really update Facebook with everything that's going on. Cool. So these massive audiences that we can reach and that we can break down into packages based off all this audience data, we can also reach them in inspiring, creative ways. Creative options within Facebook and Instagram particularly really walk the line well between the ease and scalability of templates, but then also enough flexibility and opportunity to set your brand apart and have your own unique view to customers. It's really important because weak social ads create a negative emotional response in less than a second, and also split testing different ads improves cost per acquisition by 72%, according to Facebook. So that's sort of Facebook and Instagram in general and social in general and the importance of that. There is a bit of a misconception, I feel, still of social as a branding-led channel. A lot of people do use it for performance, 100%. The majority of people use it for performance, but the wider perception, I think, because the average social media user isn't necessarily as in market as someone browsing Amazon or searching for your product on Google, as a result, these aren't viewed as necessarily performance-driven campaigns all of the time. And whilst some platforms such as TikTok are still very much branding-focused, Facebook and Instagram particularly are very much performance platforms. I mean, the main reason that Facebook was able to withstand the pressure of brands pulling advertising during the recent boycotts in July, which is still sort of ongoing, was that the vast majority of people pulling advertising were big advertisers running large-scale branding campaigns, which, whilst looking like big numbers, actually represent a tiny percentage of Facebook's worldwide ad revenue. Facebook's got more than 160 million registered businesses globally and 8 million paying advertisers, the vast majority of which are small advertisers who rely on the ROI that Facebook can generate. So ultimately, the reason why we view Facebook as a performance channel and why it should be viewed as a performance channel and is the low risk, high reward, measurable and fast testing results, a measurable return on investment, and dynamic campaigns at scale, which we'll touch upon a bit more on a future slide. So that's not to say social doesn't have a few flaws, and we'll hopefully address some of them today. Some of them are a bit bigger than we can look to address properly in this time. But firstly, it's measurement concerns. So as Max mentioned earlier, the walled garden approach of Facebook can mean that it's quite hard to stack up what Facebook's saying against your other activities, whether it's in Google Ads, Google Analytics, or on your affiliate network platform, or whatever it may be. There's also a relatively complex technical setup, not to do in the simple sense, like there are easy ways to get up and running quickly, but to get it really perfectly right, which you need for proper dynamic campaigns done at scale, it can be a bit complicated and can need a decent amount of experience in working on it. We talked upon the importance of creative. It's obviously quite demanding for brands from a creative perspective to keep refreshing creative, avoid creative fatigue, and bring in new options that are still engaging and work for your target audiences. Also, time investment in campaigns. Again, it's one of the benefits of Facebook and Instagram is it is quite quick and simple to get started with some basic campaigns, but to grow this out and to really maximize, you do need to put in a fair amount of time and expertise into those campaigns. And finally, you touched on this in the last slide, but around platform distrust. So the reasons for the boycott over July and a load of other reasons too. There are some understandable issues that some people have with some of the social platforms. Cool. So I just want to talk for a little bit how to raise your social strategy as we head into this really important part of the year. To start up with, we touched on this already about attribution. We'll go into a bit more detail later on. Don't worry. But it's really important that your attribution is the foundations of it are set correctly as you head into this period, if you haven't already done so. So ensuring that all your campaigns are granularly tagged up. So whether they're prospecting or retargeting, whether it's a sale campaign, whether it's a full price campaign, whatever it may be, and so it can pull through into, or as much as possible can pull through into Google Analytics, Google Marketing Platform, the affiliate network, wherever you want to be tracking this. Next, look at using granularity wisely. We talk about with search and display and shopping about the importance of granularity, and it is extremely important. And unfortunately, with social, there is a sort of negative side to it as well. If you narrow down too much, you can end up in the situation shown in the graph on the right, whereas your frequency shoots up because your audience is small. You end up showing the same ads to the same people too many times, and your costs escalate very quickly, and your click-through rates, engagement drop off quickly as well. You also leave yourself at risk of not giving Facebook enough information to optimize towards, which can massively impact your campaigns. However, do be wary of Facebook's advice, which seems to be moving more and more towards just target everyone in the world and let Facebook decide who best to show it to, because there are obvious pitfalls with that. So there's a time and place for granularity, but it just needs to be leveraged intelligently and wisely. Reviewing your technical setup. So the number one reason for underperformance we see in accounts that we audit is pixel and catalog failures. A lot of Facebook's is automated, and a lack of any errors in this setup can manifest tenfold down the line in terms of the impact on your performance. So we touched upon this earlier. I think Shalaka talked about our sort of feed audit that we can offer, and then we'll also Nisha's going to touch upon the pixel audit we can offer as well. These are all free of charge, and if there is anything that you'd like to get checked over, we're more than happy to do so. So mobile first strategy. Feels a little bit tired to be saying this now because things have been mobile first for a very long time, but it's just important to clarify how much that is the case with social. 95% plus of your impressions on social media are via mobile. So this has got to be front and center with any plans you're making in terms of the creative you're using or the site development strategy or anything along these lines. Cool. So just moving on to, sorry, if I just shut my window because the noise outside is getting very hot. So moving on to our approach and some of the cooler ways that we like to look at Facebook to take it up to another level. We've touched upon attribution a few times and the issues that we find there. And it does require a bit of a nuanced approach because of the walled garden again that Max mentioned earlier. So the way that we like to look at it is that you have your Facebook attributed sales, and we firmly believe in the value of Facebook tracking and attribution. It's got an unparalleled ability to track cross-device, across a user's full journey, whether it's on mobile, desktop, tablet, wherever they are. They're likely to be signed into one of Facebook or Instagram, so they can keep that view on them across this journey. However, we understand that it is the Facebook takes all approach, where it doesn't look at other channels, is flawed, and consequently, it's essential this is paired with a nuanced, I'll say that word again, and granular yet consistent approach to third-party attribution and estimated attributions as well. So we like to split these off into the post-click sales and the post-view sales. Post-click sales, you can tag up with any third-party post-click attribution, works completely as normal, whether that's Google Analytics, Google Marketing Platform, Adobe, or put CJ in there, but any affiliate network. Ultimately, though, last click wins doesn't work for social. A lot of advertisers seem to go either one of two ways. They look only at Facebook attributed sales, they look only at last click deduped in their Google Analytics, for example. This completely undervalues a lot of what Facebook can offer, particularly prospecting, and it really prioritizes what's essentially the lowest value Facebook conversions, the ones that are right at the bottom of the funnel, which doesn't say those don't have value obviously as well, but it needs to have a view at the other sides to it too. So looking at post-view sales, the way we've started looking at it is looking at estimated post-view attribution. The way this works in a nutshell, there's a lot of different data points that come into this, but just to brush over some of the key points, it's basically analyzing a wider marketing mix and site performance indicators like time to purchase, AOV, conversion rate, the vertical you're in, the scale of activity you're doing on other channels as well, and then pairing that with insight we can have from view attribution analysis from other channels, putting all this together and creating an automated system that we can pump in a few KPIs from a new advertiser and automatically generate an idea of what this post-view attribution is. What this then leads us to is building a tailored attribution model. It's going to work completely differently for loads of different advertisers and in how they want to look at this. And not only for different advertisers, but also for different campaign types. So, for example, you might want to only look at post-click for retargeting, but for prospecting, take into account post-click and post-view. Maybe for retargeting, you want to look at post-click and estimated post-view. Prospecting, you look at all of post-click and post-view. Ultimately, there's loads of different ways you can play with it. And what this gives you is just that different layer of insight according to the values of those different channels, different campaign types, sorry. Cool. Moving on to feed-based. So this is building on what Shalaka was talking through earlier. A lot of what you can see in other channels around what the impact the feed can have and the custom labels and stock and all these sort of things, they need to be feeding into your Facebook campaigns as well. So I'm sure most of you are aware of roughly of how Facebook dynamic retargeting works, and that someone views a product on your site and then is retargeted with that on Facebook or Instagram. The next level, which a lot of advertisers still aren't doing to the full extent, is dynamic prospecting, which simply works in the sense that if someone's looking at a competitor site and looking at a product they have there, if they then go back onto Facebook or Instagram, we matched up to a similar product from your feed, which then be dynamically displayed to them. So it's an enormously powerful tool to target people when they're in market and looking at other competitors, but never even been to your site. But we want to take that to the next level. First of all, we want to segment campaigns intelligently, so filter things out into categories, so you haven't got a sort of incoherent mix of products. If you're an advertiser with a large range of products, you haven't got a dog bed next to an armchair. Things are working in terms of cohesion throughout the products on show. And then you want to be looking at the products you're selecting within that. You want to be automating the selection of really high-value products to your business. So this is pulling in all the things that we were talking about previously in the feed in Shalaka's feed session. So that's looking at performance history across all your channels or across site-wide. It's looking at things like stock levels. It's looking at margin. It's bringing as many different elements into the feed as you can and using that to influence which products you want to be pushing at what time, and done in an automated way, because ultimately there are manual ways to do all this, but it's the time that gets invested and also the chance for error is so much greater. Once we've selected to make sure we're showing the best products, we then also want to narrow down the audiences a bit further. Just because someone's been browsing for related products and on other sites doesn't necessarily mean that they're your type of audience and your type of buyer, and the person most likely to purchase on your site. So we want to narrow down a bit further and look at overlaying things like high value lookalikes, potentially interest audiences, demographic data, whatever it takes to sort of just slightly narrow it down towards finding the perfect person for perfect audience for your business. What this then means is you're hitting the right person with the right product at the right time, but then we also want to make sure we're hitting them with the right ad. And that's where these dynamic ad elements come in. So this can be anything from pulling in simple things like price and title, to pulling in category information, or looking at the image as well, and price overlays or frame overlays, whatever you want it to be. There's a lot of flexibility within the Facebook dynamic templates, and they're adding new things in constantly. So definitely something to consider as well. Cool. That's that from me. Thanks for your time, as the slide says. I will now take any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you for running through that with us, Jack. Very detailed. And you mentioned feeds and creative throughout. What a closer. And I appreciate you running through the tailored attribution model. You know, I know you've been working hard on that, and it gives us sort of unparalleled insight to brands in terms of the true performance of Facebook. But I wanted to quickly ask you, why do you focus on Facebook and Instagram mainly?
Cool. Yeah, good question. I think there's two reasons really why we do so. First, before I even get into that, one thing to say, we don't solely focus on Facebook and Instagram. Like, a lot of what we do does focus in on that, because they are the for particularly from a performance perspective, they're the platforms which see the strongest revenue returns, and also they're the most mature platforms in terms of both the people's attitudes to them. Like, people have got used to seeing Facebook and Instagram as a commerce channel, somewhere where they might buy products or might be influenced by products. Might be less the case with something like TikTok. And additionally, from our perspective, the actual platform itself is much more mature as well. So the targeting options, just the UI that you're using in there, gives you a lot more options for flexibility in your campaigns and building things out at scale, and maximizing efficiency effectively.
Okay.
But sorry, just sorry. But yeah, on top of that, really, I mean, I think a point is that it's all horses for courses, really. Like there are going to be cases where the other platforms are going to be the ones to pursue, and it's that we've explored them all on performance models, and it is all doable.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jack. And final question, I think that's all we have time for. All these new developments with Facebook Commerce and Facebook Shop, for example. I mean, would you advise all brands to be looking into that and jumping into that space?
Yeah, so it's been in the news a fair bit recently, and I've had a lot of questions from brands about whether it's something they should be looking to do. And this sort of ties into what I was saying and to your last question, Max, about the way people view Facebook and Instagram. It is becoming more and more of a space for commerce, but as a brand, I think you do need to take a slightly cautious approach whether you want to get set up fully with, say, checkout on Instagram or on Facebook, because ultimately what you're then doing is taking purchases that could be happening on your site into a different ecosystem. And we've talked a bit about the walled garden of Facebook. I think you just need to be aware of what you're doing by moving more stuff into there. That isn't to say there's not a massive value, but potentially the value is more focused towards those who don't necessarily have the most developed commerce solution on their own sites. So they might be a brand that's looking to move from the high street to online and wants sort of a bridging solution that can handle the payments process and give people a nice, smooth user experience. But if you're confident in your website and you're confident in the user flow on your own site, I wouldn't necessarily be looking to focus towards taking people out of that, unless you really feel like there's a group of your audience or potential audience that aren't going to be converting on your site but could be converting on Facebook and Instagram. So basically, there's a lot of value to it, but it's not necessarily something I'd recommend for everyone, and it takes a bit more of a considered approach, but certainly an interesting space to watch.
Brilliant, thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. So that's all the time we have on the question for you. So appreciate it, Jack, and I will chat to you later. I think now we're kicking it over to Niche.
Hello. Thanks so much for everyone for listening today. Anyone that did join late, don't worry. It's being recorded, so we'll send you the recorded version. In terms of what happens next, so we're almost ready for the entertainment section, but I just wanted to quickly recap what was discussed today. So normally, sort of when we have one of these events, there'd be a chance to grab a beer after and have a chat to see sort of how we can support you. But as we're living in these strange times, I'm wearing these ridiculous headphones. We're unable to do this. So I wanted to ensure you that we're still able to be your support system, although we can't sort of see each other face to face. So we have a range of free services on offer. So for example, free feed audits, free creative audits, free Facebook pixel audits. So please get in touch if you want to hear about these. You can email partnerships@nmpidigital.com. When it comes to Amazon, we're happy to do sort of the free Amazon scraping service. Or if you actually wanted to find out a bit more about our other channels or sort of how we could help your digital strategy, we're also offering sort of free advisory sessions with some of our channel experts, and then classroom training actually for yourself and your team if you do want to find out more about Amazon or feeds. So please do get in touch, or you can actually leave your name in the comment function with the service or solution you're interested in, and we'll be sure to get in touch. I know there's been a few requests for feeds, so we will follow up after this. Perfect. Now it's the time everyone's been waiting for. Max, did you want to say anything? Or
I was just going to jump in on Luke's comment about Jack being the grandson of the person who invented the custard cream. I believe it was actually the cream cracker, if I'm not mistaken, Luke. But do keep the questions coming. We love them.
Cars, crackers. But yeah, the moment everyone's been waiting for is the magician. But I've just got to go through a few more housekeeping rules, and this is the last of it. So a link will be provided in the chat function. This is a Hangouts link, so if you could navigate towards that link, and if you could please utilize the sidebar. So once you're in Hangouts, there should be 3 dots on the side, a change layout function, and if you could please use the sidebar view, that allows the magician to have full view. Please also bring your prize draw number, as this is the chance for you to win that big gift we mentioned. And this is the time where we have to be really involved. So cameras on, but microphones off, unless you're a chosen one by the magician. So we have about 5 minutes to go over to the Hangouts link. And it's just been posted. So I shall see you there. And yeah, email partnerships@nmpidigital.com. But if not, you can put your name and the service or solution you're interested in, and we'll get back to you. So see you soon in the Hangouts. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.